I've been waiting to say this sentence for over a year. Welcome to the last episode of this series. Throughout history, the ideology and style of a nation's leaders have shaped the destiny of entire peoples. Some lifted their countries toward prosperity. Others, driven by rigid beliefs, dragged millions into misery. When power loses checks and criticism is silenced, especially under closed, authoritarian systems, leadership can turn from guidance into catastrophe. Let's see how with real cases. By the mid-1960s, China's revolutionary leader Mao Zedong faced a problem of his own making. He had led rural armies to victory and founded the People's Republic in 1949, but radical policies and centralized control had badly damaged the economy and triggered devastating famine. The media was under total control. Dissent was crushed. Officials, terrified of contradicting Mao, inflated grain figures and hid failures. As people starved, reports claimed bumper harvests. Instead of stepping back, Mao doubled down. In 1966, he launched the Cultural Revolution, a crusade to purge bourgeois elements, punish deviation from Maoism, and erase old traditions. Names of streets and buildings changed. Customs were attacked. Rivals were imprisoned, exiled, or re-educated. A cult of personality elevated Mao to near sacred status while the country paid the price. The question remains, was the catastrophe the leader do an alone, or also the work of a public that idolized him and silenced critics? About half of today's world lives under electoral systems. A large share still experiences authoritarian tendencies, and while outright totalitarianism is rarer, it never vanished. Why would any society accept a system like fascism? Fascism rises in moments of crisis. Democracies can be slow debate. Takes time. Coalitions, compromise. Fascism promises the opposite. Speed, one leader, one elite circle, instant decisions. After World War I, Italy was battered by inflation and unemployment. Benito Mussolini sold himself as savior, man-of-action, voice of the people. Fast reforms need a strong hand, he argued. But speed without wisdom led to disastrous choices, repression, and, eventually, his fall. A decade later, the Great Depression gutted Germany. Adolf Hitler offered order, jobs, and national pride. Many voted for him, believing in rapid recovery. He centralized power, silenced rivals, and prepared for war, convinced of his invincibility. The result: catastrophe for Europe and a shattered Germany. Authoritarian leaders deploy familiar tactics, invent an internal enemy and divide society, blame crises on current institutions to delegitimize them, pose as the only problem solver, monopolizing patriotism, control media, flood the public with propaganda, and suppress alternative views. When fear and hope are manipulated together, people can surrender freedom for the illusion of security. World War II discredited open fascism, but its methods survived under new labels. Leaders like Francisco Franco in Spain, Antonio Salazar in Portugal, and Augusto Pinochet in Chile built systems with restricted pluralism, security states, and loyalist media. Some fell to coups or transitions. Others unwound slowly. The costume changed, the logic of concentrating power remained. Today, many countries operate in a gray zone. Elections exist, but institutions are weakened. Political scientists use terms like electoral autocracy. Ballots are cast, but courts aren't independent. Media is captured, and opposition competes on an uneven field. Hybrid regimes. A mix of democratic procedures and authoritarian practices. Elections occur, yet rule of law, press freedom, and checks and balances are weak. Managed or guided democracy. Outcomes are steered by those in power through control of resources, rules, and narratives. What makes these systems durable is that they look democratic from a distance. The ballot boxers are there. The vocabulary of freedom is used, but watchdogs, free media, independent courts, impartial election bodies, audit institutions are sidelined. Over time, a leader's preferences become state policy without meaningful scrutiny. Is collapse the leader's fall toward the public's? History suggests it's both. Leaders build cults. Societies sustain them. When critical thinking erodes. When citizens stop asking hard questions. When fear of being different replaces debate. When loyalty to a person replaces loyalty to principles, decline follows. The price is paid by every one of them for generations. The future of any country is not only in the hands of those who rule, but also in the hands of those who consent. Healthy democracies aren't just elections. They are habits. Protecting minority rights, tolerating criticism, demanding transparency, and defending independent institutions. History is full of examples where nations paid dearly for abandoning those habits. Perhaps the truest line is this: a nation is not destroyed first by the rulers who govern it, but by the people who bow to them without question. I'll be honest, this has been the hardest project I've ever worked on. 2 research sheet. I've traveled to archives and libraries across 3 continents, poring over thousands of pages of declassified documents, letters, diaries, transcripts, and policy papers. And yet the more I learned about the inner workings of states, the less I understood. Because here's what I realized. A leader isn't the only story. It's easy to demonize a dictator, but in every case I examined, I found the same question. Where did the followers come from? A movement needs a base. So I began following that trail backwards, uncovering a social fabric woven with threads of faith, fear, ambition, desperation, and hope. Sometimes the tapestry was beautiful. Other times, it was terrifying. Then I started seeing patterns, stories overlapping across centuries and continents. A hidden history where ordinary people made extraordinary choices. Choices about loyalty and identity, yes, but also about curiosity and doubt, comfort and change, unity and division. Those choices still shape our world today. Look around you. Ask yourself which story interests you most, because that will tell you a lot about you and your time. It feels fitting to end this series where it began, with Walter Lippmann, whose book Public Opinion ignited my passion for this subject. Here's what he wrote back in 1922, a challenge that still resonates today. The greatest single element in the whole political equation is the attitude of mind. Whether it is a habitual attitude of respect toward the rights of others, or whether it is a habitual attitude of arrogant self-assertion. That choice, respect or arrogance, belongs to each of us. We don't choose our circumstances. We do choose how we respond. Do we embrace empathy or exploit difference? Openness or fear? Compassion or indifference? For me, the decision is clear. But as we close this chapter, know this: the responsibility now passes to you. What story will you choose to tell? How will you shape the future? Your time begins now. Thank you for watching. This series was made possible by a grant from a major foundation. You can learn more about their work on their website. Their mission is to foster and protect the free flow of information and ideas, to improve lives by supporting independent journalism, advancing open data, and combating threats to press freedom. Throughout this series, I hope to give you a deeper understanding of how power works, where it comes from, and how it's sustained. If you want to better understand global politics, follow along for more.